You know that feeling when your entire marriage dissolves at a red light? Yeah, me neither. Until that Thursday afternoon on Oak Street when I watched my husband of 12 years walk out of an apartment building I'd never seen before, while a very pregnant blonde waved at him from the third-floor window like he was her personal hero returning from war. Hi, I'm Vera, 38 years old, divorce attorney, and apparently the world's biggest idiot. Let me paint you the picture. There I was, sitting in my Lexus, waiting for the light to change, mentally rehearsing my closing argument for the Henderson case, when I see Graham, my Graham, the man who claims he can't remember where we keep the coffee filters, confidently exiting 1247 Oak Street Apartments. He's carrying what looks like groceries, organic ones, from Whole Foods. The man who thinks Costco is too bougie was shopping at Whole Foods for someone who wasn't me. But wait, it gets better. This blonde goddess couldn't be more than 26, leans out the window, one hand on her very obvious baby bump, the other blowing him a kiss. And Graham? Graham looks up at her with this smile I haven't seen in approximately 4 years. The smile he used to give me before we became two strangers who occasionally shared a bed and argued about whose turn it was to take out the trash. The light turned green. I didn't move. Cars behind me started honking. I still didn't move. Because my brain was doing this funny thing where it was trying to convince me I was seeing things. Maybe Graham had a long-lost sister. Maybe he was doing charity work for pregnant single mothers. Maybe I'd finally snapped from too many years of listening to cheating spouses lie under oath. A guy in a pickup truck yelled something about learning to drive. I flipped him off, very mature, I know, and pulled into the Target parking lot across the street. My hands were shaking. My heart was doing this weird stuttering thing, and somewhere in the back of my mind, the part that had spent 15 years obliterating unfaithful husbands in court was whispering, "Oh, honey, you know exactly what this is." Here's the thing about being a divorce attorney. You think you're immune to this stuff. You think you can spot the signs a mile away. Lipstick on the collar? Please, that's amateur hour. Suspicious credit card charges? Child's play. Late-night work emergencies? I literally wrote the playbook on spotting those red flags. But Graham? Graham was smart, or so I thought. He'd watched me dismantle enough marriages to know all the tricks. He knew I checked credit card statements. He knew I noticed when he came home smelling different. He knew I'd question every late night and every unexplained absence. What he didn't know, what he couldn't have possibly known, was that 6 months ago, I'd installed cameras in his car. Not because I suspected anything, mind you. Houston has this delightful problem with catalytic converter thieves. Our neighborhood had been hit 3 times in 2 months. Our insurance company practically begged us to install security measures. So I got cameras for both our cars. Front-facing, rear-facing, interior-facing. The works? 24/7 recording, uploaded to the cloud, accessible from my phone. Graham thought it was excessive, but agreed because, well, his BMW was his baby, and the thought of someone stealing parts off it physically pained him. Sitting in that Target parking lot, hands still trembling, I pulled out my phone and opened the app for his car camera. I'd never actually checked the footage before. Why would I? But now I needed to know if what I'd just seen was a one-time thing, or if my marriage had been a joke for longer than I wanted to admit. I scrolled back through the footage, past this morning's commute, past yesterday, past last week. 2 months ago, Graham's car parked outside 1247 Oak Street. Stay duration, 4 hours. 6 weeks ago, same location. Stay duration, overnight. 1 month ago, same location. Multiple visits per week. My stomach dropped somewhere around my feet. The app timestamped everything. GPS located everything. Recorded everything. Every single visit to that apartment building. Every lie about working late at the office. Every guy's night that was actually a romantic dinner date captured on the dash cam as he drove to some restaurant I'd never heard of. I watched footage from 3 weeks ago where he stopped at a baby boutique. A baby boutique. My husband, who'd told me for 5 years that we should wait a bit longer before trying for kids because his real estate business was too demanding, was shopping for baby clothes. With her, the blonde goddess from the window. The footage showed them laughing, holding up tiny onesies, his hand on her stomach, feeling the baby kick. The baby that was clearly, obviously, devastatingly his. I sat in that parking lot for 20 minutes, watching my marriage die in high-definition cloud-stored video. And here's the crazy part. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I didn't have a breakdown. Instead, I started laughing. Like full-on cackling in my car like some kind of supervillain who just figured out the hero's weakness. Because the universe had just handed me the most beautiful gift a divorce attorney could ask for. Ironclad, time-stamped, video-documented evidence of infidelity. Graham had spent 12 years married to a woman who'd built her entire career on destroying cheating spouses in court, and he'd just handed me enough ammunition to take him for everything he had. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Let me back up and tell you how we got here. Because this story gets so much better. Graham and I met 14 years ago at a real estate convention in Dallas. I was there representing a client in a messy property dispute divorce. He was there trying to network and expand his business. We met at the hotel bar. Cliché, I know, and hit it off immediately. He was charming, ambitious, funny. He made me laugh. He made me feel seen. All the things you're supposed to feel when you meet the one. We got married 2 years later in a beautiful ceremony in Austin. Nothing too fancy, just family and close friends. My parents loved him. His parents loved me. We bought a house in a nice neighborhood in Houston. The kind with good schools and HOA meetings that people actually attended. The kind of place where everyone knows everyone, and you can't take your trash cans in late without getting a passive-aggressive note from the neighbors. Graham's real estate business took off. My law practice flourished. We were the power couple, the ones who had it all figured out. We went to neighborhood block parties and smiled for photos. We hosted Thanksgiving and made small talk about interest rates and property values. We were living the dream. Except somewhere along the way, the dream became a routine. The routine became monotony. And the monotony became this. I should have seen it coming. Looking back now, the signs were all there, hidden in plain sight like some kind of twisted scavenger hunt. The way he started working late, more frequently about 8 months ago. The new cologne he suddenly wore, because the old one was discontinued. The gym membership he actually started using after 3 years of it being a very expensive keychain decoration. But I was busy. I had cases, clients, court dates. I had a career that demanded my attention. And honestly, I'd gotten comfortable, complacent. I'd fallen into the trap I'd seen 1,000 times in my office, thinking that because I could spot infidelity in others, I'd magically be immune to it myself. Spoiler alert, I wasn't. So there I was, sitting in a Target parking lot, having just watched my husband's secret life unfold on my phone screen, and I had a choice to make. I could confront him immediately, scream, throw things, make a scene. I could call him right now and demand answers. Or I could do what I do best. I could build a case. I drove home in a daze, but not the crying, mascara-running, country song kind of daze. No, this was the laser-focused, calculating, spreadsheet-creating kind of daze that had made me one of the top divorce attorneys in Houston. The same focus that had earned me 2 published articles in the Texas Bar Journal on uncovering hidden assets. Graham had been so proud of those articles. Never occurred to him I might use those same techniques on him. By the time I pulled into our driveway, what would soon be my driveway, I'd already mentally drafted my strategy. Graham's car wasn't home yet. Of course it wasn't. He was probably still at the apartment, assembling a crib or painting a nursery or doing whatever devoted baby daddy things he'd refused to do with me for 5 years. I walked into our house and saw it all differently now. Every piece of furniture we'd picked out together suddenly felt like evidence. Every photo on the wall felt like a lie. There we were at our wedding, looking stupidly happy. There we were in Colorado on our 5th anniversary, both of us smiling like we hadn't already started becoming strangers who happened to share a zip code. I opened his closet. Everything looked normal. Suits arranged by color, because yes, my husband was that guy. But then I saw it. A small gift bag pushed way back on the top shelf behind his winter coats. I pulled it down. Inside was a receipt from Tiffany & Co., dated 2 weeks ago. Amount, $3,200. My hand went instinctively to my left ring finger, touching the engagement ring Graham had given me 12 years ago, the one that cost $1,800. Apparently, inflation had hit Graham's romantic gestures, or maybe just his guilt. I kept digging, because once you find one thing, there's always more. That's divorce attorney rule number 3. Found a second cell phone buried in his gym bag. Burner phone. Prepaid, untraceable to our family plan. Turned it on. No password. Rookie mistake, Graham. The text thread with L was extensive. Months of messages. Pet names that made me want to throw up. Plans for their future. Discussions about baby names. But the real kicker? A message from 3 days ago. Can't wait until this is all over and we can finally be a real family. Just a few more months and I'll tell her. Promise, baby. Graham was planning to tell me. Eventually, after the baby was born. How considerate of him to wait until his mistress had given birth before blowing up our marriage. The front door opened downstairs. Graham was home. Babe, I'm home. Sorry I'm late. Got stuck showing a property. The lies rolled off his tongue so smoothly. 12 years of practice, I supposed. I walked downstairs, burner phone in my pocket, smile on my face. Hey, honey, I said, kissing his cheek. He smelled like her perfume. Something floral and young and probably from Target. How was your day? Exhausting, he said, loosening his tie. This market is insane. Everyone wants to buy. Nobody wants to pay what things are actually worth. Want me to order takeout? I'm too tired to cook. Sounds perfect. I ordered Thai food from his phone while he showered. Sent a quick text to Elle. Miss you already. Her response came immediately. We miss you too. Baby was kicking so much today. I think she knows when Daddy's here. They were having a girl. Graham had always told me he wanted sons. Boys carry on the family name, he'd said. Apparently, that rule didn't apply to mistress babies. I deleted the messages and put his phone back. We ate dinner on the couch, watching some Netflix show neither of us cared about. He told me about his day, heavily edited version. I told him about my case, about how I was representing a woman whose husband had hidden assets all over town. Some guys are just stupid, Graham said, shaking his head. Like, if you're going to cheat, at least be smart about it. I almost choked on my pad thai. The audacity, the absolute irony of this man, sitting here lecturing about cheating husbands while his pregnant mistress waited for him across town. Yeah, I agreed. Some guys think they're so smart, but they always mess up somewhere. There's always evidence. Always a trail. That's why I could never do it, he said confidently. Too stressful. Too many moving parts. I smiled. You're absolutely right. Too many moving parts. That night, after Graham fell asleep, I went downstairs and did what I do best. I built a case. First call, Marcus, my investigator. Best in the business. And ironically, someone Graham himself had recommended years ago. Marcus, it's Vera. I need full surveillance on someone. Digital, physical, financial, everything. Who's the target? My husband. Silence. Then, oh damn. Vera, I'm sorry. Don't be sorry. Just be thorough. 1247 Oak Street Apartments, 3rd floor. Woman named Lacey, approximately 26, approximately 7 months pregnant. I need everything. I'm on it. Second call. Patricia, forensic accountant. If Graham had been moving money, she'd find it. By 2 a.m, I had an army assembled. By 3, I had accessed every bank statement, every credit card charge. By 4, I'd found it. The investment property Graham had told me about 6 months ago. The apartment at 1247 Oak Street. Purchased using $70,000 from our home equity line of credit that I'd co-signed on. He'd literally bought his mistress a love nest with my money. I found the baby registry, Pottery Barn Kids, West Elm, all the expensive stuff. Guess what credit card he'd used? Our joint account? That crib? I'd technically paid for half of it. The designer stroller? Marital assets. I laughed. Actually laughed out loud at 4:30 in the morning. Graham thought he was so smart. Thought he'd covered his tracks. But here's the thing about being married to a divorce attorney who'd literally published research on finding hidden assets. You should probably assume she knows every trick in the book. Friday morning, Graham kissed me goodbye before heading to work. I smiled and told him to have a great day. Then I got to work. Called my firm, told them I was taking a personal day. Marcus called with an update. Lacey worked at Pure Bar downtown, made $30,000 a year, had been seeing Graham for 11 months. Met him when he sold her friend a condo. Patricia found another $20,000 in charges. Baby furniture, maternity clothes, prenatal vitamins, all on our cards. By noon, I had a complete financial picture. By 2, I'd drafted divorce papers. By 4, I'd filed them with the court, requesting an emergency hearing based on dissipation of marital assets. By 5, when Graham texted saying he'd be late because of a client dinner, I was sitting in my attorney's office. Yes, I hired representation because representing yourself is stupid, finalizing strategy. The plan was simple. Serve him at the gender reveal party. I'd found the invitation in his burner phone. Tomorrow, Saturday afternoon, Lacey's apartment. All her friends and family celebrating baby girl Richardson. Yes, that was going to be the baby's last name. My attorney, Diane, looked at me with something between admiration and horror. You're going to serve him at the baby shower? Gender reveal party, I corrected. And yes, with you there. And Marcus to document everything. Vera, that's brutal. Diane, he spent my money on his mistress's baby. He bought her an apartment with our home equity. Brutal doesn't even begin to cover what he deserves. She smiled. The emergency hearing is set for Monday of next week, 10 days from now. Judge Morrison, you'll have time to gather every piece of evidence. Make it airtight. It's already airtight. But yes, let's make it absolutely devastating. I went home that evening and cooked dinner. Real dinner. Graham's favorite. Pot roast. Set the table with our good dishes. Lit candles. Put on the dress he'd always loved. When he came home at 9, smelling like her again, he looked confused. What's all this? Just wanted to do something nice, I said sweetly. Felt like we needed a real dinner together. He looked uncomfortable. Guilty. Good. We ate dinner, making small talk. He told me about his fake client. I told him about my fake day. We were both lying, but only one of us knew it. I love you, he said, reaching across the table to take my hand. I looked at him and felt nothing. The man I'd married was gone. Maybe he'd never existed. I love you too, I lied back, because tomorrow, at 2 in the afternoon, at his pregnant mistress's gender reveal party, Graham was going to get the first surprise. And in 10 days, in front of Judge Morrison, he was going to get the second one. The one that would actually destroy him. Saturday morning, I woke up feeling like it was Christmas. Except instead of presents under a tree, I was about to deliver the gift of consequences to my cheating husband. Call me petty, but after 11 months of lies, I'd earned a little vindictive joy. Graham was still asleep beside me, snoring softly, blissfully unaware that his entire world was about to implode in approximately 4 hours. I watched him for a moment. This man I'd shared a bed with for 12 years and tried to find some sadness, some regret, some tiny piece of the love I'd once felt. Nothing. Just a cold, calculating satisfaction. I got up, made coffee, and started getting ready. Not my usual Saturday yoga pants and messy bun. No, today required strategy. I chose a sleek black dress, professional but not too formal, expensive but not flashy. I wanted to look like exactly what I was, a woman who had her life together while his fell spectacularly apart. Graham stumbled downstairs around 10, rubbing his eyes. Morning, babe. You look nice. Going somewhere? Meeting Diane for lunch, I said, which wasn't technically a lie. Diane would be there, just not for lunch. Cool. I've got some showings this afternoon. He poured himself coffee, kissed my cheek, and headed back upstairs to shower. Showings. Right. The gender reveal party started at 2. I'd seen the evite on his burner phone. Pink and blue balloons, cute little question mark graphics. It's with a blank space waiting to be filled. Lacey had registered at Pottery Barn Kids, Williams Sonoma, and Restoration Hardware Baby and Child. Because apparently, Basic Target baby gear wasn't good enough for my husband's side piece. The party invitation said, casual attire, light refreshments, prepare for a sweet surprise. The only surprise was going to be me, Diane, Marcus, and a process server crashing their little celebration. At 1:30, I left the house. Graham was in his study, probably rehearsing whatever elaborate lie he'd tell me about his afternoon. I didn't say goodbye. I met Diane and Marcus in the Target parking lot across from 1247 Oak Street, the same parking lot where I'd had my little epiphany 2 days ago. Marcus had a camera with a telephoto lens. Diane had her briefcase. I had divorce papers and approximately 12 years of rage wrapped in designer clothing and excellent posture. You ready for this? Diane asked. I've been ready since Thursday. The process server, a guy named Joel who'd worked with me on dozens of cases, pulled up in his sedan. Vera, I gotta say, this is the most dramatic service I've ever been asked to do. Joel, after today, you'll be able to dine out on this story for years. We waited until 2:15. Fashionably late, as they say. Let the party get going. Let everyone get comfortable. Let Graham relax into his fake life before I burned it to the ground. Marcus went up first, posing as a delivery guy. He'd scope out the apartment, confirm Graham was there, count how many people were present. 3 minutes later, my phone buzzed. Target confirmed. Approximately 15 guests, mostly women. Your boy is playing Proud Papa, hand on her stomach, the whole 9 yards. It's honestly nauseating. Perfect. Diane, Joel, and I walked across the street. My heart was pounding, but my hands were steady. This was it. The moment I'd been building toward for 48 hours. We took the elevator to the 3rd floor. I could hear music and laughter from Lacey's apartment before we even turned the corner. The door was propped open, one of those parties where people were flowing in and out, casual and comfortable. I walked in first. The apartment was decorated exactly as I'd expected. Pink and blue streamers everywhere. A dessert table with gender-neutral cupcakes. A giant balloon arch that probably cost more than Lacey's monthly rent. About 15 women were scattered around the living room, chatting and laughing. And there, in the center of it all, was Graham. He had his arm around Lacey, his hand resting on her very pregnant belly, smiling at something someone had just said. He looked happy. Genuinely, completely happy. Happier than I'd seen him in years. That's when he saw me. The smile died on his face like someone had flipped a switch. His arm dropped from Lacey's waist. His mouth opened, but no sound came out. Lacey followed his gaze, saw me standing in her doorway, and her face went from confused to terrified in about 2 seconds. Hi, honey, I said brightly, walking into the apartment like I'd been invited. Surprise! The room went silent. 15 women stared at me like I'd just crashed a funeral, which, in a way, I had. The funeral of Graham's double life. Vera, Graham finally managed. What? What are you doing here? Well, you said you had showings this afternoon, but then I realized you forgot some important documents at home. I turned to Joel. Would you mind? Joel stepped forward, professional and efficient. Graham Richardson, you've been served. He handed Graham the divorce papers. Graham took them with shaking hands, staring at the documents like they were written in a foreign language. Vera, wait, I can explain. Oh, I'm sure you can. You're a real estate agent. You're great at selling things. But here's the thing, Graham. I'm a divorce attorney. I'm great at destroying things. Specifically, lying, cheating husbands who use marital assets to fund their mistress's lifestyle. Lacey made a small squeaking sound. Marital assets? Oh, sweetie, did he not tell you? I turned to her, my smile sharp enough to cut glass. This adorable apartment you're living in? Purchased with $70,000 from our home equity line of credit. That furniture? Our joint credit card? That crib I can see in the nursery? Also, our money. Congratulations. You're living in a love nest I technically paid half for. Hope you like it, because the court's going to be very interested in recovering those assets. One of Lacey's friends gasped. Another pulled out her phone, probably to record this, which was fine. The more witnesses, the better. Graham's face had gone completely white. Vera, please, can we talk about this privately? Privately? Like how you privately had an 11-month affair? Like how you privately got another woman pregnant? Like how you privately drained our accounts to play house. I laughed. No, Graham. We're way past private. Diane stepped forward, all business. Mr. Richardson, I'm Diane Foster, Mrs. Richardson's attorney. You'll notice the emergency hearing is scheduled for Monday morning. The court has granted a temporary restraining order freezing all joint accounts, pending the hearing on dissipation of marital assets. You'll also find a motion for exclusive use of the marital home. I suggest you retain counsel immediately. Graham looked like he might throw up. Good. Lacey started crying. You told me you were divorced. You said it was finalized. Oh, this just kept getting better. He told you we were divorced. I turned back to Graham. Really? That's the story you went with? So what was I then? Your extremely committed ex-wife who still lived with you, shared a bed with you, and apparently funded your new relationship? I was going to tell you, Graham said weakly. I was going to tell you both. After the baby, I repeated. How considerate. Really shows your planning skills. Speaking of which, Graham, you might want to check your bank accounts. Oh, wait, you can't. They're frozen. Guess you'll have to ask Mommy for money now. Marcus was getting all of this on camera from the hallway. Perfect. I turned to leave, then paused. Oh, Lacey. Congratulations on the baby. She's adorable in the ultrasound photos. I particularly liked the one from the appointment on March 15th. You know the one Graham paid for with our insurance? Yeah, my insurance company is going to love that little detail. I walked out of that apartment with my head high, Diane beside me, leaving behind a room full of shocked silence and one very ruined gender reveal party. In the elevator, Diane started laughing. That was the most savage thing I've ever witnessed. I'm not done yet, I said. That was just the opening statement. Monday's hearing is going to be the closing argument. My phone started buzzing before we even reached the parking lot. Graham calling. I declined. He called again. Declined again. Then came the texts. Vera, please. Let me explain. This isn't what you think. I love you. I blocked his number. Marcus was waiting by his car, grinning. Got everything on video. This is going to look beautiful in court. Send it to Diane by tonight. And Marcus? Bill him, not me. Add it to the list of marital expenses. I drove home, to my house, which would legally be mine by the end of next week if Diane had anything to say about it. And finally let myself feel it. Not sadness, not grief, just pure, righteous satisfaction. Graham had spent 11 months thinking he was smart enough to juggle 2 lives, thinking I was too busy, too trusting, too oblivious to notice. He forgot who he married. Monday morning arrived like the season finale of my favorite show, except I was the star, the writer, and the executive producer. I woke up at 5, went for a run, showered, and put on my best courtroom suit, the navy Armani that made me look like I could bankrupt someone just by looking at them, which, coincidentally, was exactly the plan. Graham had spent the weekend blowing up my blocked number, showing up at the house, our house, which he couldn't enter thanks to the restraining order, and generally spiraling. I knew this because Diane had forwarded me the increasingly unhinged emails his hastily retained attorney had sent. My personal favorite was the one claiming I was emotionally unstable and had ambushed him at a private family gathering. Private family gathering. That's what we were calling affair baby showers now. The emergency hearing was scheduled for 9. I arrived at the courthouse at 8:30, coffee in hand, evidence binder under my arm. Diane was already there, reviewing notes. Marcus had delivered a thumb drive with every piece of video footage, every receipt, every transaction. We had bank statements, credit card records, GPS data from Graham's car cameras, text messages from the burner phone, and my personal favorite, a full accounting of every penny he'd spent on Lacey over the past 11 months. Total damage, $94,632 of marital funds that I'd earned half of. Graham showed up at 8:50 with his attorney, some guy named Richard who looked like he'd been pulled out of a golf game and told to handle this mess. Graham looked terrible. Unshaven, wrinkled suit, eyes bloodshot. He'd clearly had a rough weekend. Good. We entered the courtroom. Judge Morrison presiding. I'd appeared before her dozens of times. She was fair, no nonsense, and had exactly zero patience for cheating spouses who played financial games. Mrs. Richardson, she said, nodding at me, I've read your emergency motion. Mr. Richardson, I've read your response. Let's get started. Diane stood. Your Honor, this is a straightforward case of marital asset dissipation. Mr. Richardson conducted an 11-month extramarital affair, during which he systematically diverted marital funds to support his paramour and their expected child. We have extensive documentation. She pulled up the first exhibit on the courtroom monitor, the apartment purchase at 1247 Oak Street. $70,000, withdrawn from a home equity line of credit both Graham and I had signed. Mr. Richardson told my client this was an investment property. Diane continued. In reality, it was purchased as living quarters for his mistress, Ms. Lacey Porter. Richard stood. Your Honor, my client made an investment decision. An investment decision? Judge Morrison raised an eyebrow. Counselor, did your client disclose to his wife that this investment property was occupied by a woman he was romantically involved with? Richard sat down. No, Your Honor. Continue, Ms. Foster. Exhibit 2. Credit card statements. Diane highlighted charge after charge. Pottery Barn Kids, Williams-Sonoma, Tiffany & Co., that $3,000 purchase that still made my blood boil. Prenatal appointments billed to our insurance. A maternity photography session. Baby furniture. A breast pump, for crying out loud. Your Honor, Mr. Richardson spent $94,632 of marital assets on his affair and the resulting pregnancy. This represents approximately 40% of the couple's liquid savings. Judge Morrison looked at Graham like he was something she'd scraped off her shoe. Mr. Richardson, did you disclose any of these expenditures to your wife? Graham stood shaking. Your Honor, I made mistakes, but that's not what I asked. Did you disclose these expenditures? No, Your Honor. Did you tell your wife you were having an affair? No, Your Honor. Did you tell your wife you got another woman pregnant? No, Your Honor. Did you use marital funds your wife earned through her employment, to support this other relationship? Graham's jaw clenched. Yes, Your Honor. Judge Morrison made a note. Ms. Foster, what are you seeking? Immediate reimbursement of the dissipated funds, exclusive use of the marital home, which my client has been locked out of since Saturday, possession of the marital vehicle in her name, and a ruling that the apartment at 1247 Oak Street be sold and proceeds returned to the marital estate. Your Honor, Richard protested weakly. Ms. Porter is 7 months pregnant and living in that apartment. Mr. Richardson should have considered that before using his wife's money to house his mistress, Judge Morrison said coldly. Here's what's going to happen. Mr. Richardson, you have 72 hours to vacate the marital home. Mrs. Richardson gets exclusive use pending the final divorce decree. The apartment will be listed for sale immediately. Proceeds will be held in escrow until the divorce is finalized. All joint accounts remain frozen except for a monthly allowance of $2,000 for Mrs. Richardson's use. Mr. Richardson may petition for access to his separate accounts, if he has any. Graham's face went gray. He didn't have separate accounts. Everything was joint. Furthermore, the judge continued, I'm ordering Mr. Richardson to repay $47,316 to the marital estate within 90 days, half the dissipated amount. If he cannot pay, a lien will be placed on his future earnings. Your Honor, Richard said desperately, my client has ongoing financial obligations. He should have thought of that before he decided to fund a second household. This hearing is adjourned. We walked out of that courtroom and I swear I was floating. Diane was grinning like she'd just won the Super Bowl. Behind us, I could hear Richard trying to explain to Graham that, yes, this was really happening, and no, there wasn't much they could do about it. Graham caught up to me in the hallway. Vera, please, can we just talk? I stopped, turned, looked at him. About what, Graham? About how you lied to me for 11 months? About how you spent our money on another woman? About how you bought her a $3,000 ring while I'm still wearing the $1,800 one you gave me 12 years ago? I never meant to hurt you. You just meant to lie, cheat, steal, and get someone else pregnant while we were married. But hurt me? No, that was just an unfortunate side effect. I love you. You love me? I laughed. Graham, you don't even know what that word means. You love yourself. You love having options. You loved having a stable wife at home while you played house with a younger model across town. But me? You haven't loved me in years. You just didn't want to give up the comfortable life I helped you build. His eyes were wet. What am I supposed to do now? I don't know, Graham. Maybe get a job? Maybe move in with your mother? Maybe ask Lacey if she has a spare closet? Not my problem anymore. I started walking away. Vera, I stopped one more time. Oh, and Graham? That BMW you love so much? The one in your name? Might want to check the divorce petition. I'm claiming it as compensation for emotional distress. Hope you like public transportation. The next 72 hours were glorious. Graham showed up Tuesday afternoon with a U-Haul, rented, because I'd gotten the truck, and moved his stuff out while I watched from the kitchen window, drinking wine and smiling. He took his clothes, his golf clubs, his precious flat-screen TV. I kept everything else. The furniture, the art, the kitchen stuff, the good dishes, and most importantly, the house itself. Wednesday, I changed the locks, had a security system installed, got a new garage door opener. Symbolically and literally, Graham was locked out of my life. Thursday, I got a call from Marcus. You're going to love this. Graham tried to return the ring he bought for Lacey. Tiffany won't take it back. Final sale on engagement pieces. He's out $3,000 with nothing to show for it. I laughed so hard I cried. Friday, Diane called with an update. The apartment's on the market. Lacey's moving back with her parents in Katy. Apparently, they're not thrilled about the situation. Also, Graham's mom called his attorney asking if she really has to bail him out financially. She's not happy. By the following Monday, exactly 1 week after the hearing, I had my house, my car, my dignity, and my bank account back. Graham had a studio apartment in a questionable part of town, a bus pass, and 2 households to support on a real estate agent's commission in a slowing market. I drove past his new place once. Couldn't help myself. It was in one of those buildings with coin-operated laundry and broken door buzzers. His BMW, my future BMW, pending the final decree, sat in the parking lot looking sad and out of place. I didn't feel bad, not even a little bit. The divorce was finalized 6 weeks later. I got the house, valued at $850,000. I got half his retirement account. I got spousal support for 5 years. I got the BMW. I got our dog, Chester, who Graham had suddenly decided he wanted, probably out of spite, but the judge noted that I'd been Chester's primary caregiver for 7 years. Graham got visitation rights with a dog and child support obligations for a baby that wasn't even born yet. Lacey had her baby in late November, a girl, 7 pounds, 3 ounces. I know because it showed up on my Facebook feed. Apparently, we still had mutual friends who couldn't resist the drama. The birth announcement was notably lacking in any mention of Graham. Interesting. Last I heard, Graham was working overtime trying to make enough commission to cover his court-ordered payments, his rent, and diapers. Lacey was living with her parents, posting Instagram stories about single mom strength and toxic relationships. Meanwhile, I refinanced the house in my name only, adopted a rescue puppy to keep Chester company, and took myself on a 2-week vacation to Italy with money from my savings account. I ran into Graham exactly once after everything was finalized. Whole Foods, naturally. He was in the checkout line with store-brand formula and a cart full of the cheapest everything. I was behind him with organic produce, expensive wine, and a cart full of things I absolutely didn't need but could now afford because I wasn't supporting a cheating husband's double life. Our eyes met. I smiled. He looked away. I didn't say anything. Didn't need to. The sight of him counting change for baby formula while I paid for a $100 grocery bill with cash said everything that needed saying. Karma isn't just a concept. Sometimes she's a divorce attorney with excellent documentation skills and a really good lawyer. 2 years have passed since that Thursday afternoon at the red light on Oak Street. 2 years since my life imploded and rebuilt itself into something I never expected. Something better. I'm sitting in my home office right now. The home office in my house that I own outright after refinancing, and I can hear Chester and Luna, The rescue puppy who's now a full-grown disaster of a dog, wrestling in the living room. The morning sun is coming through windows I had professionally cleaned last week because I can afford that now. The kitchen has new appliances because the old ones were ours, and I wanted everything to be mine. It's funny how you don't realize you've been living in a cage until someone hands you the key. Or in my case, until you take the key, make copies, change the locks, and install a security system. People ask me all the time if I'm bitter, if I hate Graham, if I wake up angry about those 11 months of lies and the $94,000 he spent on his fantasy life. The answer is no, not anymore. You can't hate someone you've stopped thinking about, and Graham Richardson has become nothing more than an occasional footnote in my very excellent life. I did hate him, though. For a while. Those first few months after the divorce were hard in ways I didn't expect. Not because I missed him, God no, but because I had to rebuild my entire sense of self. I'd been Graham's wife for 12 years. I'd made decisions based on we and us and our future. Suddenly there was only me, and I had to figure out who that person was. Turns out she's pretty great. I made partner at my firm 8 months after the divorce. Took on the biggest cases, the ones I'd been too cautious to pursue before because Graham always worried about what if you lose and what if it affects our reputation. Without him in my ear, I won. Every single one. My success rate is now 93%. I'm the attorney other attorneys recommend when their clients need someone who doesn't mess around. I bought a new car, not the BMW, which I sold immediately because driving Graham's precious baby felt like wearing his cologne. I got myself a Tesla. Graham would have hated it. Too flashy, too expensive, too impractical, which is exactly why I love it. I traveled. Italy, like I mentioned. Then Greece. Then a 2-week solo trip through Japan where I ate amazing food, saw incredible temples, and didn't have to check in with anyone or explain where I'd been or why I was spending money on myself. I came back with 3 suitcases of stuff I didn't need and 0 regrets. I dated. Casually at first, then more seriously. Turns out, there are actual good men out there. Men who don't lie, who don't cheat, who think a successful woman is attractive rather than threatening. I'm seeing someone now, another attorney actually, who makes me laugh and doesn't have a secret second family. The bar is low, but he clears it easily. As for Graham, last I heard, and I only hear through the neighborhood gossip chain I pretend not to listen to, he's still struggling. The real estate market recovered, but his reputation didn't. Turns out, when you're known as the guy who got demolished by his divorce attorney wife, people don't exactly trust you with their biggest financial transactions. Who knew integrity mattered in business? He and Lacey lasted about 8 months after the baby was born. Apparently, playing house is a lot less fun when you're broke, stressed, and realizing that the person you cheated with is probably capable of cheating on you too. Shocking development. Truly. Lacey's doing fine, from what I can tell from her Instagram, which I checked exactly once out of curiosity, and never again because I have better things to do. She moved on, found someone else, seems happy. Good for her, genuinely. She was 26 and stupid, not malicious. Graham was the one who lied to both of us. The baby, Maisie they named her, is adorable in photos. She has Graham's eyes. I feel nothing about this except a vague hope that she grows up to be smarter than her father. Maybe she'll become a divorce attorney. Wouldn't that be poetic? Graham's mother called me once, about 6 months after everything finalized. She apologized. Said she'd raised him better. Said she was ashamed of what he'd done. I told her I appreciated it, but she didn't owe me an apology for her adult son's choices. We had coffee. She's actually lovely. We still meet up occasionally. Graham hates it. My parents were supportive throughout everything, though my dad did say, I never liked him, approximately 40 times, which was both annoying and validating. My mom kept asking if I was eating enough, which is universal mom language for, are you surviving this nightmare? I was. I am. The house feels different now, lighter. I repainted, got rid of the safe beige Graham insisted on, and went with deep blues and warm grays. Hung art I actually like instead of the generic landscapes he picked out. The The guest room became a library because I've always wanted a library and never had one because Graham thought it was pretentious. I got a cat. Chester was thrilled. Please note sarcasm. Luna thinks the cat is her best friend. The cat thinks Luna is an idiot. They've worked it out. I hosted Thanksgiving last year for the first time in my newly decorated, fully mine house. My parents, my brother and his family, some friends from work. It was loud and chaotic and perfect. Nobody asked about Graham. Nobody pitied me. I wasn't the divorced one or the betrayed wife. I was just Vera, hosting a great party in her beautiful home. Here's what I learned from all of this. Betrayal is a gift wrapped in the worst possible paper. You don't see it at first. You just see the pain, the humiliation, the loss. But underneath is freedom you didn't know you needed. I was comfortable in my marriage. Comfortable is dangerous. Comfortable makes you complacent. Comfortable keeps you in situations that stopped serving you years ago because change is scary and the known is easier than the unknown. Graham did me a favor. He forced me out of comfortable and into terrifying, and terrifying turned into thriving. I'm not grateful to him. Let's not get carried away. But I'm grateful for the outcome. I'm grateful for the life I built from the wreckage. I'm grateful I had the skills, resources, and support system to not just survive but to win. Not everyone gets that. I know how lucky I am. Do I wish I'd figured it out sooner? Sometimes. I look back at the signs I missed and cringe a little. But I was busy being a good wife, a good partner, a good team player. I was doing what I was supposed to do. Graham was the one who broke the rules. Would I do anything differently? Maybe I would have installed those car cameras for actual security reasons sooner. But honestly, no. Everything happened exactly as it needed to. The universe handed me evidence at the exact moment I was ready to use it. I saw a quote somewhere that said, "The best revenge is living well." That's nice and all, but incomplete. The best revenge is living well and making sure they know about it. Which is why when I ran into Graham at Whole Foods, I made sure my cart was full of expensive everything, and I paid in cash while he counted change for formula. Petty? Absolutely. Satisfying? Incredibly. I'm not a saint. I'm a woman who got betrayed, got angry, got even, and got on with her life. In that order. No regrets. Sometimes late at night, when the house is quiet and the dogs are asleep and I'm sitting in my library with a glass of wine, I think about that moment at the red light. That split second when everything changed. When I could have driven home, confronted him immediately, had a screaming match, and let him control the narrative. Instead, I waited. I planned. I documented. I executed. I won. That's the difference between reacting and strategizing. Between being a victim and being a victor. Graham thought he was smart enough to juggle two lives. He thought I was too busy, too trusting, too naive to notice. He underestimated me. Men do that a lot. They underestimate women. They assume we're not paying attention. They think we're emotional and irrational and unable to think strategically when we're hurt. They're wrong. I'm living proof they're wrong. So here's my advice, completely unsolicited. If you think your partner is cheating, trust your gut. Then verify. Then document. Then lawyer up before you confront. Emotion is powerful, but evidence is everything. And if you're the one thinking about cheating, don't. Just don't. Get a divorce like an adult. Because if you cheat on a divorce attorney, you deserve everything that's coming to you. I sleep well at night. In my house. In my bed. With my dogs and my cat and my extremely well-organized financial records. Graham probably doesn't. That's not my problem. Last month, I got an email from a woman who'd heard about my case through the legal community grapevine. She was going through something similar. Husband, affair, hidden spending. She asked if I had any advice. I told her what I'm telling you. Document everything, trust nobody, and hire the best attorney you can afford. Then I referred her to Diane, who's now specialized in high-asset divorces with infidelity components. We've become quite the team. Graham created a monster. Or maybe he just revealed one that was there all along. Either way, I'm good with it. My name is Vera. I'm 40 years old. I'm a partner at Houston's top family law firm. I own a beautiful home, drive an excellent car, have amazing friends, and wake up every day grateful that a red light on Oak Street showed me exactly who I'd married. Some people get lemons and make lemonade. I got betrayal and made a career upgrade, a real estate victory, and a life I actually want to live. If you see me at Whole Foods with my expensive groceries and my satisfied smile, that's why. And if you see Graham counting change in the checkout line, well, that's also why.